Hi boys and girls, welcome to reading. Now this week in reading we're starting our new reading book. This is My View K.4. The last one was K.3, this is K.4. So hopefully you have your book, and if not you can still follow along and we can learn together. So if you have your book, we're actually opening to page 14. I'm going to flip it halfway there so you can see the page 14. Okay. So we're opening to page 14. And in this unit, we're learning about things in the past and things in the present, okay? Then and now. And we've been talking about that last week in social studies as well. And we're learning about that here in reading in this unit. So a couple things we're going to look at to begin that are really interesting. It's talking about communication. Now, communication is using things like phones, computers, email, sending messages, or talking to someone that is not right there. We can communicate in person, of course, by talking, but many times we have to communicate in a different way, and we're going to look at two ways of communication. Communication then, in the past, and now. Now, if I look at this picture on page 14, do you think that's communication now or in the past? I see a person holding a feather, and it was called a quill, dipping it into ink, and then writing like that. Now look at the candle. That's a clue too, a detail that tells me that's probably someone communicating in the past. So that's communication in the past, and we'll read the message here. The text that says, long ago people used a quill, there's a quill, like a feather, to write messages. They dipped the quill in ink, then they wrote the message on paper. So that is the old way, an old way that people used to communicate. Now, if we turn the page, here on page 15, I see a picture, completely different form of communication, something we're more used to now. What is that? That's a tablet, right? And what's on the tablet is an email. And the text here says, today we can use computers to write messages. Okay? So, do you see the difference here between the quill, the old way, and the new way? Which way would you rather communicate? The old way or the new way? Probably the new way, right? It's a lot quicker. But we can see the difference between something that was then and now. All right, so now we're going to turn the page. And we're going to turn the page 16. I'm going to fold it over so you can see it well. Go ahead and grab your pencil. And we're going to look at some pictures. And we're looking for some pictures that have different forms of the letter O. Okay? Now, believe it or not, boys and girls, the letter O has more than one sound. We've been learning about the letter O, and I'm going to flip open to our O and our letters here. And when we say O, octopus. Octopus. And that is the short O sound. Okay? It's a short O. That's what we normally say when we're saying our letters. There's also a long O sound, more like O, that is sometimes pops up in words. You see it in words, and we're going to talk about both kinds of the letter O sound. And first, we're going to take a look at the picture here on the top that has the short O and then the long O there on the bottom two ones. Okay, so I see, what is this right here? That is an log. So I'm going to circle that. What sound does that make? That's the in the middle. That's the log. I hear the sound. That is the short O sound. Now this one is a little bit different. Okay, so this one is a house. You hear the O sound? It doesn't sound like it sounds like ow. It's the long O sound. Okay, the long O sound, house. So I'm going to underline that one. Okay. Now, we're going to take a look at this, and we're going to circle, actually, the ones that have the short O sound, and we're going to underline the ones with the long O sound, okay? So if I look at fox, is it the short O sound, or the long O sound, O? I think it's the short O sound, isn't it? So I'm going to circle that. And then I see next to it a rock. You hear the O sound in the middle? Is it short, or long, O? It is the short O sound. So I'm going to circle that as well. Okay. And then there's a phone. What sound does that make in the middle? What kind of, oh, I hear an O sound. Bone, bone. Is that ah, short, or O, long? That is a long O sound. So I'm going to underline that one. Okay? There's a top, top. Ah, ah, ah. Is it short O, ah, or long O? O, top. It is a short O sound. Very good. Now we're going to go ahead and look at it. The stop sign here. Stop. You hear the O sound? Stop. Is that short, ah, or long O? That is a short O sound. And then finally, a hose. A hose. Is that a short O sound, ah, ah, or long O? Listen to it again. Hose. That's the O sound, a long O sound, and I'm underlining that one. All right. Very good, boys and girls. So now we can turn the page, and we're going to go to page 17, just the next page. Excuse me, and we're going to go ahead and look for some short O and long O sounds here, okay? Now, we're going to look at the first one, and I see it looks like it's giving us a word that has the short O sound, rod. Go ahead and trace that O. There's your word, R-O-D, rod, okay? So, in the first row, we have 3 pictures, and we're looking to circle the ones that have the short O sound, okay? So, rod, and they've circled the first one. What is that? That is a box. You hear the short O sound? Ah, ah. Rod, box. There it is. So I'm circling that, okay? I have a picture here of a map. Do you hear the short O sound in the middle of map? What sound is there? Ah. It's an A, isn't it? It's not even an O, so I'm not going to circle that one. Okay? Here's the last one. What is that? That is a pot. Okay? Now let's go ahead and segment or take apart the sounds in that word. P, ah, t. Oh, did you hear that O sound? There it was. P, ah, t. And it is the short O sound, just like rod, pot, pot. Circling that one. Very good. All right. So now on the bottom row, we're actually looking for the long O sound. And I'm going to trace the dotted letters so I can finish that word. And I see the word is road. Now you hear the difference once again. It's not the short O sound, ah. It's the long O sound, O, road. Okay? So I'm looking at these 3 pictures and I'm deciding, I want to decide what has that long O sound. Okay? They're in the middle of it. Now, I see the first one, okay? And I'm looking at it and I see the C. E. Is there the long O sound in the middle of that word? C. Now, I hear the E sound in the middle, so I'm not going to circle that one. The next one is a rope. Now let's go ahead and segment, take apart the sounds in that word. R, O, R, O. I hear the long O sound. Do you hear it? Just like road, rope. Oh, there it is. Very good. Here's a house. Now, it's kind of tricky because that O sound is right next to the U sound. But if you listen close, you can hear the long O sound. House, house. It's there. So I'm circling the house. All right. Very good, boys and girls. All right. Last 2 pages of our lesson today. And we're on page 18. And now we're going to look at some short O, long O sound words here. And we're going to decide which one it is. And really, we're practicing our writing here. So I'm going to finish the words here. I see the dotted letters. Trace those. That's a top. That's a dot. And that's a rope. Okay? Now first, let's go ahead and write our words here. Okay? Now we're being very careful to use our lines, our top line, midline, and bottom line. And we're going to write it just like they did over here. Okay? Let me ask you a question. What if I wrote my T up here? Is that okay? If I put my T right on the top of that midline? No. We want to use the lines as we should, and we want to copy just as they did there. Okay? So I'm going to start my lowercase t, the top line through the midline to the bottom line. And actually, let me go ahead and do that one again with a marker so you can see it just a little bit better. Okay, we are starting at the top, all the way down. See that? Then we're putting that line across right on the midline. Now for the O, we don't start at the top line. We don't start anywhere but the midline. Okay? Very good. And pause if you need to, boys and girls, to go ahead and catch up. I'm going too fast. And then the P starts at the midline, but it goes below the bottom line. Don't forget that part. You don't want to try to end it here because it would be too squished. So start at the midline, through the bottom line, and then finish the P with a front circle. Not many letters do that, but the P does go below the bottom line. Okay, so that's top, and then we're doing dots. Start right there. We can go ahead and just finish kind of a circle. It's a good way to do that, and then go to the top line, pull all the way down to the bottom line. And then for the O, midline, around, and then top line, down to the bottom line, and then across, the last part. And then rope. Start at the midline, down to the bottom line, finish that little piece there, and then for the O, once again, midline to the bottom line and back up. And for the P, there it is again. It starts at the midline, goes below the bottom line, and then finishes front circle. And then an E we actually start halfway between the midline and the bottom line. Okay? Go out and back around, but don't finish the circle. Leave it open there. Now, let's just talk about it. What words are have the short O, and what words have the long O sound? Listen to the top. Is it ah or o? Short or long? Top, op, op. That is the short O sound. Very good. Now, how about dots? Let's segment or break apart the sounds in the word. D, ah, d, ah. There's that ah again. That is the short O sound. Last one, rope. All right, boys and girls, let's listen to that one. O, o. Is that short O, ah, or long O, o? That sounds like a long O, doesn't it? Yeah, a little bit different than the other two. Okay? All right, boys and girls, we're going to stop right there. Thank you for working with me today on our short O and long O sounds.